Well, folks, here we are,
Hold
Rich,
on.
and we got the sheriff of Maricopa County, Jerry Sheridan, who's coming on, and it looks like he may be having a little bit of technical difficulties. And but he's in his mobile office working, even on Sunday. You know, this guy doesn't stop, and
Nope.
no, he doesn't. He keeps going. There's a handful of other elected officials that work this way. Oh, we lost him. He's trying to do it. Like I said, he's here somewhere, but he's a busy man. Oh,
Coming back.
looks like it. Hang
So,
on.
There he
all
is.
right. I'm sorry. I live out in a rural area, and we don't have very good Wi-Fi out here.
Yeah,
So,
Well, you're looking good. We're getting you in there.
all
yeah.
right.
He's making some adjustments, folks.
Yep, yep, yep. So,
There we
all right,
go.
boy. There
There
you
we
go.
go. Perfect.
Sorry about that.
Not a
Any,
problem.
anyway, we brought you on, Sheriff. Thank you for coming on, and we're going to be we're curious as to what you've done in the first year
Uh huh.
and the direction you're going to be going in and making life better there at the sheriff's office for all the employees.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um. Well, I made. I try not to make promises when I ran my campaign because I wanted to be able to live up to everything that I say I was going to do. And for all the things that I talked about during the campaign, which was, well, when you put I ran in 2020, didn't win, and then all that, probably about 6 years of effort to get elected. I said a lot of things during that time, but the big things that I talked about, I accomplished within 60 days. And some of the other things that took a little bit longer, obviously, like attacking the vacancy factor with the deputies, detention officers, and civilian employees. So we cut the deficit in half. So I had about 1,400 vacancies when I took over. We have about 700 now. Uh, and we've got a bunch of deputy recruits in the process. And as you know, once you hire a deputy sheriff, it takes a year before they actually can fill a seat in a patrol car because
Right.
of the training, the initial training, and then their field training and some of the other things that go on. So we're in the process of getting those people out. There's a lot of field training officers busy right now with their new deputies, and the same thing is happening with the detention recruit. Um, so the detention deputies are out there and in the pipeline, and we've got to double up, move some classes around for all the people that we've actually hired that are waiting to get in the academy. So I think we accomplished that task pretty well. The other part of that is not only recruiting people to fill vacancies, but you also want to have people not leave on you. So,
Yeah.
the retention part of it's a big thing. And
Right.
so I've gotten some really good feedback about the retention part. And that goes to maybe probably the easiest way to say this is I had a command officer come up to me last week, and we just got done with the captain testing. And there were a large amount of people testing for captain that in the previous years they've only had 4 or 5, and so now they had almost 20 tests for captain. And some of the comments were, well, we were thinking about leaving, but now that Sheridan's here, we're going to stay. or we didn't want to be part of the command staff of the previous administration. But now that Sheridan's here and the undersheriff and the chief deputy, yeah, we want to be part of this. So I think we've accomplished that piece. And the animal cruelty was a big thing with me, and it's not just like some people do it because, or have done it because it's a good thing politically. Well, you guys know me well enough. We've got 5 dogs at the house, and we adopt horses also, and we rescue some of the dogs that we've got, and so they're a big part of our life, and so that's been a big success. And the animal cruelty unit, you got to take your hat off to these detectives because they really work their ass off, and they're out there all the time, 7 days a week. There's a lot of things going on with people uh, abusing their animals and not taking good care of them. And we've probably had 2 of the biggest cases in the history of the sheriff's office this past year. That the animal crimes detectives have made some really good cases on these people. We're also working with the legislature to see if we can't up the punishment and severity of the crime for animal cruelty, because a lot of those things are just misdemeanors.
Right.
So a lot of times they just get pled to nothing and nobody goes to jail. So that's not a good way to uh, get the message out there to stop that stuff.
Yeah.
Um, we're
One of
doing
the things,
we're doing a lot of community outreach. One of the things with the court order is the judge doesn't think we're doing enough to communicate with the community, and I got to tell you, they probably work as hard as the animal cruelty unit. They're out there 7 days a week, and we have a full team doing that. And the thing about it is when we get out to these communities, the communities that we actually police, like Gila Bend, Aguila, Levine, those kind of areas. Um, you know what the number one complaint is? It's not
what's that?
about the deputies being racist. It's not about the deputies taking advantage of them because of the color of their skin. It's that we don't have enough deputies out here. We want more deputies out here,
Yeah.
uh, right? And in Guadalupe, I've got a great relationship with the mayor and some of the members of the council, and we've gone there numerous times with the community outreach people and myself, and we hear the same thing from the community members in town, is that we want to see more deputies here. We like you here. We need your help to help solve some of these violent crimes. So I think MCSO is doing a great job with that, and I say that not from my perspective, but from the feedback that I get from a lot of people. And that's one of the things that I've been doing a lot. I learned how to do this during the campaign, and that's just not sitting on your ass, getting out there and meeting with people and talking to them and see what they need from you. And that's the way I'm also running the office. I haven't slowed down at all.
Yeah. On that, the animal cruelty thing, I've been seeing other agencies in the news trying to do it, trying to figure it out. And on the previous show we had with Ann from recruiting,
Hmm.
we talked about it, and I said maybe since MCSO's kind of leading the way and has been doing it a while, maybe they can put together a training program for any agency that can come down and learn it from the initial report all the way to the end, and
Yeah,
how you put things together, because I think not only here in Arizona, but other places in the country don't have anything close to this.
right, right. Well, we did about 2 months ago. We got we invited all the agencies in Maricopa County, and there's 30 of them, by the
Right.
way.
Right.
We invited them to come talk about it, and the Humane Society showed up. County attorney sent 3 attorneys there.
Well,
2 of the attorneys that are assigned to work in animal cruelty cases. So we're really putting that group together, kind of like what you're talking about, Curly. The training is different than training for somebody that's abusing a human being because the
Right.
animal can't talk. It's kind of like the same training's different between a doctor and a veterinarian. You have to look at things differently. And so some of the cases that the county attorney has not been able to file charges on is because the law enforcement agency uh, didn't do the case right and didn't, for example, when let's say you've got a murder case, right? You don't throw the body away. So when
No.
you have somebody that kills a dog and the police officer goes to the scene, and takes a couple pictures, then throws the dog's body in the dumpster. Well, how do you know the dog died because of X, Y, or Z, right? You don't. And so you
No.
can't make a case on somebody. So those kinds of things that the mindset for the officers that show up, and our deputies are very good at this because they've been doing it for a long time and they know now that I have a big emphasis on this and how it's important to me personally. And so we haven't had those cases, but what we get now is phone calls from people that live in cities, and which we do have jurisdiction, and we do send our detectives out there when we can. But we'd like to get the other agencies on board and get their people trained up, kind of like what you're talking about.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's perfect because MCSO's been doing it for years, and they got it down. You guys have it
Yeah.
down, and then you have the MASH unit that
Hmm.
takes in these animals, which has another side to it because inmates get to take care of the animals and learn about
Yeah.
it. Is that still going on there?
That's still going on, and we just added some more officers to the MASH unit because of the workload that the detectives are bringing in, and so it's working really well. In about 2 years, we will be moving out of the First Avenue jail and into the location now where Animals and Rabies Control is on 27th Avenue and and Lower Buckeye. So
Right.
in a couple of years we'll have a nice facility where we can and do all that instead of the old abandoned jail, which has its problems. So that's been going on. One of the other big things uh, is the posse, right? Now
Right.
being former deputy sheriffs, how important the posse is not only
Very.
to the deputy sheriffs, but to the people out there that we're trying to serve. And the previous administration took about 1,400 very active posse members and turned it into, I think it was 24 when I took over in January last year.
Wow.
And so we have been bringing back posse members. We're talking about getting a cold case squad going now. I've got a couple of people that are former homicide detectives from one from Chicago, another one from LA that want to help with some of our cold cases and that kind of level of experience you can't pay for. And
No.
so we're recruiting them in the posse. We've got an animal cruelty posse going now. We completely redesigned how the posses were operating. Back in the day, we had about 40 some odd posses, and they all had their own charters. They all had their own rules and regulations and their own commanders, and it was very wieldy. And so now we redesigned the posse structure that we've only got 10 posses. And somebody wants to join a posse like a search and rescue, they go into the search and rescue posse. They don't go
Right.
into the posse from Queen Creek or the posse from Mesa, that kind of thing. So it makes the management of the posse a lot smoother and a lot less troublesome. And so we're bringing the posse back. We've got a lot of training going on right now. We've redesigned some of the training, and we're allowing posse members to train with deputies when there's spaces available and all that. And so it's really going well. We're getting a good response from that, and that's really important to not only the deputies out in the street, but to the people. They're force multipliers, no doubt.
Yeah. Are you, and on the detention side, how's things improving over on that side? Because I know there's probably more detention officers than there are deputies, and that's a mandated function,
Right.
and they got to be treated good too. They got to have
Oh yeah.
money, all that. So,
Oh yeah.
what's the latest there?
Well, I don't like to talk about money because I don't have control of the money. It's the board of supervisors. But we every time we put in for our budgets, we definitely have that as our number one issue is our employee compensation and taking care of that. But I think things are going well in detention. Again, I'm out there a lot. I go to the jails a lot. I spent Christmas Eve touring the jails and didn't get home till like 11 o'clock the next morning. And on New Year's Eve, I spent most of the time with the patrol deputies on the west side and a couple east side calls. I went and talked to some deputies, and I also stopped in at intake. So they see the sheriff out there. They know I'm out there. That I listen to them. I hear what they need. I want to pay attention to what they want. And I'll give you two guys. Here's a request that I had from a couple of the deputies that I talked to at 3 o'clock in the morning in Guadalupe on January 1st. And that is they were complaining about they felt like a stuffed sausage with the outer vest carrier they had on. And they wanted me to authorize just a plate carrier instead of the big vest. Now, I know from a practical reason it'd be a lot more comfortable to wear,
Right,
but it doesn't have the coverage that a big vest does.
right.
So, what do you guys think?
I don't know. I've seen a lot of things, and when I was there, there were guys bitching about white t-shirts, black t-shirts, a little V, getting shot at. There were all these different uniform changes
Yeah, yep, yep.
from the Wranglers and the Flying Cross shirts, and you know all of them.
Hmm.
You know, you could go buy a pair of pants, the Wrangler pants, and that brown at Cowtown Boots for like $12, or you
Hmm.
could go buy a new pair of El Becos for like 50, $60. So,
Hmm.
I think that having a uniform is very important because, and I was going to ask that anyway, what's up with beards that a lot of guys in uniform are wearing beards? I mean, I know my mustache, I push the limits, but
Well, Curly, you sound like a dinosaur right now.
oh, I know, but there's a little bit to it because there's been beefs by the public saying they don't want to see militarized police. But on the other side of the coin too, there's guys like, and I won't use his name here, but he's old school. He's retired, gone, and we know who he was involved with the Explorer program heavily.
Hmm.
But he'd wear the uniform, uh, the Class A shirt and
Yeah.
that. And I think that when you look the same, there's a little bit more of a professional appearance. That's just my opinion. If you got that professional appearance going.
Well, I I'm gonna try and make an hour response into 5 minutes or less. Okay.
Okay.
I learned a long time ago. Don't screw with the uniform. I was the guy that when I was a deputy, I remember being out in Queen Creek on in the middle of the night in the winter, and those polyester pants, those Wranglers you're talking about,
Right.
they were cold. It was like you had no pants on, and in the summer they were so hot they would pull the hair off your legs. So I remember thinking to myself, you know what? Someday, Jerry, you get an opportunity to change these pants. You're going to do it, and well, who knows what happens in the strange things in life? 20, 25 years later, I was the chief over patrol, and I put a committee together to look at the different pants and the costs and all this stuff. And the committee of both detention officers and deputy sheriffs came
Right.
back with those El Becco pants.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, then let's do that. Well, you would think that I just committed murder and everything because they were more expensive and blah blah blah. And so I that was the time I learned, Jerry, don't screw with the uniform because you're not going to make anybody happy. And
Yeah.
then, I sat in 2023 for 4 months. I sat on the grand jury here in Maricopa County. And so I got to see police officers, state troopers, and our deputy sheriffs come in and testify in court. And you know what? Every agency had a officer with a beard. And every agency came in and they had their out of vest carriers on. They weren't wearing their Class A uniform to testify to the grand jury. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
And the only agency, and I gotta give them a shout out. The only agency that looked professional, what you're talking about, Curly, was the Arizona Department of Public Safety.
Oh yeah.
Those
They're
troopers
strict.
looked sharp. Okay. Well, you know me. That was a big thing when people were hesitant about voting for me for sheriff because they said, "Oh yeah, Sheridan's not gonna let us wear the beard anymore. He doesn't like the out of vest carriers because they don't look professional. He always wears a Class A shirt, blah blah blah." And so I had to tell people. I said, "Relax. I am not coming in here and changing your uniform."
Okay.
Problem is, and I agree with you 100%. We don't really have a uniform anymore because everybody's wearing a different vest now, and all that. And you know what? I even complicated it a little bit more. I let I let the deputies wear the chocolate brown Wrangler uh, jeans
But those are
Oh,
awesome.
and the rough out boots like
there you
Lake
go.
Patrol. I'm like, you know what? Screw it. If Lake Patrol can wear these things, and the deputies would rather wear the jeans, then go ahead. And you know what? I don't see a lot of them wearing jeans, and I don't know why. Maybe that's because they've got their other uniform pants they want to wear out first. I don't know, but I
Yeah.
could tell you that when I go out on patrol, I wear those jeans and the rough out boots because it's so much more comfortable than the other stuff.
Oh
I'm
yeah.
going to jump in on that and step back a few feet. Number one, I'm a proponent of the outer carrier. I think when it first came out, greatest thing. I think we do need to get in line and limit the variations of the carriers that are out there. The jeans, great job. I'm not sure why some folks haven't taken the opportunity, but I think they're extremely comfortable. They look good. And you made a comment on that stuffed sausage thing. I'm
Hmm.
not going to go too far off the center line, but I'm going to say you decide, whoever you are, how comfortable you are in a uniform, and I'm going to leave it at that. Um, so, but there's a
Yeah.
lot of people that look great in a outer carrier with the Wrangler jeans on, and I think a working uniform for this job that we're doing, or you're doing, is one of the best choices you can make. You have to have a working uniform to be comfortable, and you don't need to be a stiff um, mannequin type individual
Right.
there's a time and a place for a Class A uniform look. Absolutely.
Right. Well, we are deputy sheriffs, and that was part of the decision to even consider the jeans, because we're deputy sheriffs, and you know what? We're different than the police officers,
Yep.
the city officers, and I think deputies feel more like deputy sheriffs when you're wearing those jeans and you're
Yeah.
driving the four-wheel drive pickup truck.
Yeah.
Which also drives the way you act and you just
Hmm.
you do differently. Absolutely.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was also a time and I'm dating myself, that patrol was authorized to wear shorts. Do you remember?
Yeah, I remember that.
And I said,
I think they should be authorized for limited circumstances, like an off-duty job. You're sitting in a car, an intersection, working a traffic signal, 120 degrees. Not a bad thing.
Well, I think we need a committee first. We need a committee, and you have to go before the committee, and you got to show them your legs first before we allow them.
oh, yeah.
You know, I would like to maintain this professional look to the office, right? You know, I don't want these skinny little chicken legs out there, you know, uh, and I would like a more manly appearance for our
Yeah.
deputies.
Yeah. Well,
Oh, if I can hold this up to the camera, I'm going to show you a nice picture here. Oh, too much glare? Look at that,
Yeah,
huh?
yeah.
Are those, is that not good looking?
I don't know. I don't. I'll leave that up to Curly.
I'm not sure what year that was, but
so yeah. See, so I tried that. I go, oh, I'll get a pair of shorts. I'll wear them during the summer. I wore them like twice.
all year long.
I got teased for my legs being so white that I
Yep.
glowed in the dark.
Yep.
And then when you chase your first bad guy through those bushes with the big thorns, they don't
Or you
work.
got to kneel down on the pavement in the summer.
Oh
Not
yeah.
good.
They are not good. And I don't care what that Reno 911 lieutenant looks like in shorts, because it's kind of, I can see Lake Patrol doing it out on the boats.
Yeah, on the
and
boat.
stuff.
Sure.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But I most certainly don't see anybody else at the office doing it. I really don't. Not shorts.
Mm-mm. So I didn't get a good answer from you guys about the plate carrier. You know, it's
Oh,
smaller. It's more compact. Um, so
it,
you know,
it's a
I
coverage.
will give it due consideration, um, because I don't think it really matters anymore. There's so many different, like you said, so many different vests out there. Definitely
Yeah.
wants to wear a plate carrier.
Yeah, and the plate carriers, they're smaller, lighter. They don't cover as much. They cover that vital organ area, but
They do. Right.
I've known of guys that have gotten shot under the arm, in the neck, all these
Yeah.
different things. And
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
not a flak jacket like I used to have in the army with the big
Uh-huh.
collars and all that would take a grenade. you know,
Right. Right.
it's those outer carriers were pretty nice because
Yeah.
when I worked patrol, as a sergeant, I'd go into a place, I could take it off, like at District 1, put it down, type reports, do all the sergeant stuff, and then put it on and go hit the road.
Yeah.
I'll throw in and say again that comment you said, stuffed sausage. Why does someone feel like a stuffed sausage? So,
Well, that was their
do you want to
comment.
give up?
These
No,
guys, they were not fat. I'm telling you, these
no,
guys,
I'm not that. It's. I'm not
these
even.
guys were in good shape.
I
Yeah.
don't know how one would complain about wanting to have their body covered, be safe. Maybe adjusted a little looser. Maybe a different quality of
Material.
the material. Maybe not as stiff. I mean, they do make. You might have to pay a little bit more, but if you're speaking comfort, I'd rather have comfort and coverage than comfort and little coverage.
Mm-hmm.
I'd spend a little bit more and upgrade my own vest and be comfortable. But I wouldn't want to forego that space, that
Yeah,
coverage.
you
That's
need
just my thought.
the coverage. You got to have the coverage.
All right. Well, that's the answer. No on the plate carriers.
So,
Plate carriers are for guys like in TOU or SWAT that are.
Well, I have one here in my truck.
Do you?
Right? Yeah, I have one here in my truck that if something happens, I can just throw it on.
Yeah.
right? That's what they're made for, I think.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
to wear when you're out on patrol your whole shift.
Yeah. And I know they get a uniform allowance, but the unfortunate thing is that
Mhm.
gets taxed. So if I'm correct, I don't want to misspeak, but you're
Yeah.
giving them X, they get taxed, they get 2/3 that, but maybe there needs to be maybe work with some outside entities with assisting in funding, upgrading vests,
Mhm.
um, where
It's
these guys can get a lighter material, more flexible. But yet, I'm sorry, I myself want that coverage on my body, and I'd rather be safer
yeah.
um, for the 12 hours I'm out there.
Yeah. No, I don't blame you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
one of the things on the uniform allowance, I know some of the other agencies have really good uniform allowances. We got ours one year, and I remember sending an email, and I thought I was going to get in trouble for it. That I said I found the US code that says that a business doesn't have to pull taxes out of the uniform allowance. There's a code for it, and it was up to $1,500 at that time. So I highlighted the U.S. code, the tax code, and sent it over to whoever it was at the time, and I got a thing back. If you don't like this, take it up with your supervisor. That's the only response I got. So I go, I better leave it at that.
Well,
But
Curly, if you can find that and send it to me, I certainly will forward that on,
oh
and
yeah,
maybe
I found it.
we
It
can
was
save them some money.
yeah, because you you can write off as an individual uniforms for work. You
Right,
can
right,
write off. So when you get that tax not taken out, you don't get that write off anymore unless it's stuff you purchased outside of that scope of the
right,
uniform
Allowance.
allowance. And that
right.
applies to nurses, firefighters, all these different professions. And they made the figure at that time $1,500 that is non taxable money so you can get uniforms to do your job.
Right.
Let's I want to jump on track here a little bit. Not that we've been off track, no, but we're a little bit halfway through the program here. What are we looking at for the next 6 months for within your organization for the deputy sheriffs, even detention officers? What can they be looking forward to um, that's going to change, and what are some other things you're doing?
Well, there is that constant recruiting, like Ann. I'm sure she talked to you about. She's doing a
Yep.
great job,
Oh, phenomenal
uh,
job.
and that plays a key role. And then the next thing is the court oversight has been going on a long time, and
Mm-hmm.
we've had a monitor for 12 years. We feel that we are in full and effective compliance with all the paragraphs. The monitor has said that they believe that we're in full effective compliance for 172 of the paragraphs. And then the other 12 paragraphs we're not in compliance. And so we feel very strongly, and we have the data to show that we are in compliance. So this is a big thing because uh, the federal judge has tried to take over the sheriff's office, take over leadership and control. And really, the genesis of this, and I'm not telling you guys something you don't know. I'm really talking to your public, your listeners. Is deputy sheriffs back in the day in 2007, when the traffic stop was made for Mr. Melendrez, they had 287G authority. And now, that is something that's a lot of people understand what that is now, because with President Trump in office and Homan, that was his pet program, 287G. And so that's back in the news again. And so the deputies had 287G authority. They were trained as ICE agents. They were acting as federal agents when they did those things. But the judge felt that that wasn't appropriate, and we used the criteria that to determine whether somebody was in the country illegally. I think there's 14 points that it's the same 14 points that 2.5 months ago, the United States Supreme Court validated as legitimate way to determine whether somebody was in the country or not, and it's not racial profiling. So if you add all that together and understand all the money that's been spent and all the issues that MCSO deputies have been dealing with, especially for the last 12 years,
Right.
it's time for this thing to go away, because we have not had a sustained complaint from an individual of the Hispanic or Latino that has been legitimate, that has been sustained. And it's not us sustaining them or not. The monitor also reviews every one of these, as you know. And so it's not MCSO policing themselves and saying, "Oh yeah, we're good boys and girls now." No. It is the ACLU, the monitor team that reviews all this stuff, and they're still saying that we're not in compliance, but yet they know. The problem is they don't want to let go, because there's a lot of money in it for them, not only the monitors, but all the attorneys, the plaintiffs' attorneys, the ACLU attorneys, some attorneys from some of the biggest law firms in the country that are there, that are our adversaries. And so they don't want to let go of this gravy train.
No.
And my thing is, and I don't say this out loud, so don't tell anybody, but there's a lot of agencies around that maybe could use some scrutiny. It certainly isn't the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office.
No, I think
Not anymore. Anyway, let me put it that way.
My journey that took me 35 years, I know there was some change needed, like any entity. You change, you need change, but it's a night and day, and I think it's a shining diamond, and you can only, shine a diamond so much. They're not robots out there. They're human beings. There's always going to be that human factor. Someone's going to slip doing something, whatever category it may be in. So yeah, there's got to be a break given. You've led
All
this.
Right. Don't get nervous, but I have to plug my phone in.
Uh-oh.
So so the picture's going to change a little bit. Okay. There we go. All right.
Hey,
you're looking good.
I was going to ask about that on the statistics that you had, or that the monitors use. I remember when it first started, they were using statistics from like Guadalupe. The deputies stopped more Hispanic.
Yeah.
And less. It was crazy stuff.
Well, ASU partnered with us. Well, not really us, but ASU did that research, and this was in October of 2016. They first came back with it, and I refused to sign off on it because it had a lot of those issues, Curly, that they didn't account for the where the deputies worked, the populations, of the communities, all kinds of the geotagging wasn't really a thing back then, and Fountain Hills was mostly white, right? And so deputies would get called in for stopping and citing too many white drivers. I mean, it got ridiculous. So I refused to sign off on it. And it's gotten better now. We actually have 2 PhDs, the statisticians that work for the sheriff's office, that do all the research with their teams. And we've got it down to a science now. And so we're very confident that none of the deputies are out of line in what they do. And those anomalies, like I just talked about, like in Guadalupe or in Fountain Hills, 2 different population densities there. We're fine now.
Yeah.
But again, this has taken a long time to get this done.
Yeah.
Because, and you know why? Because nobody else is doing it. Nobody. There is no law enforcement agency in this country that is collecting all the research and doing all the data scrutiny than we are. And so if we're the only agency in the United States, you can bet your ass we're the only law enforcement agency in the world that is got this down to a science.
Yeah.
You're 1 year through your first term. Do you have desires for a second term?
Of course, yeah.
Okay. And with that said, um, do you plan on keeping the same high standards that you have now with the monitors, or similar standards with the people that are injected into the office? You obviously want quality manpower, you want quality production. I'm assuming your desires are to keep standards up high.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. We've come a long way.
Yeah.
And like you said earlier, we needed some changes. And those changes are here. And matter of fact, you go out and patrol now. And how long have you been gone now, you guys?
1
Curly?
year, 1 month for myself.
Since
Okay.
2018.
Okay, 2018. You know what? You won't know anybody in patrol, Curly. And you know what?
I know. I see your Facebook posts for different things like the Sun Lakes thing, where you did an event down in the Sun Lakes posse. That was an
Yeah.
amazing posse. They did a lot of stuff down
Yep.
there.
Yeah.
And for people that don't know Sun Lakes, it's a retirement community that when I worked there, I wasn't old enough to live there, but as soon as I got to like 45 years old, they go, "Hey, Curly, you can move in down here, be the resident deputy." I go, "No, that's okay. I'm not that old yet." But, bringing back the posse, bringing back, and there were, as I remember, there were some issues and they weren't widespread or anything. And it was with vetting the posse guys.
Yeah, of course, you're going to have your problems once in a while. But, one of the things about, since we're talking about the court monitors and the posse, they hate the posse. The ACLU hates the posse. The DOJ did. Now, I haven't heard them talk about the posse since President Trump got here. But the DOJ historically didn't want us to have the posse. And they didn't get it, that we allowed civilians to carry guns and wear the uniform of a deputy sheriff out in patrol. And I'm like, you know what? This is part of the history, the 150-year plus history of the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office, is we have posse. The posse help us. And so, it's an East Coast thing now, because a lot of the monitor team that hates the posse, they're East Coast people. They don't get it. And we always tell them, hey, man, this is Arizona. This is the West. We do things different here.
Maybe they
we're
need
not
to
changing it.
Maybe they need to be forced to watch some old John Wayne movies that are in black and white, where it says "Round up the posse, let's go."
Well, I don't know about that, because if you remember, the sheriff would go into the saloon and get a bunch of drunks, and then next thing you know, you'd see him riding off in a cloud of dust. So, yeah, I don't know if I want to do that.
Yeah, on the 287G thing that we used to enforce, and the 287G thing wasn't necessarily what we were enforcing. We weren't enforcing federal law. At that time, we had the 1070 thing in play. We had 1070, we had the employer thing and all that stuff, and that's what we were enforcing. So to clarify that, we were trained to do 287G and look for the same things that ICE looks for and that, but we weren't enforcing federal law. We were enforcing state law.
So, in the beginning, you kind of asked me whether, I wanted to talk about, my comments that I made on KTAR last week.
Right.
And, it was my fault because I wasn't clear. Because, when you're talking and you're thinking about something and maybe you think you already said it, explain it a little bit more, and I didn't. And I realized that after when all the comments came in, like Stacy, she keeps up on my social media for me, and she's like, "Hey, you're getting killed on social media that you don't back up ICE." And I go, "What?" And so that's when I had to come and do that follow up video the next morning. So, the bottom line is the sheriff's office has had a great relationship with ICE, since 2006,
Right.
when we first got involved in 287G, and throughout that, and then when because of the Melendrez case, and Obama was the president at the time, and they were coming after us. They took 287G away from us. I put two ICE agents in intake to interview everybody that came off the street, and we book about 250 people a day in the Maricopa County Sheriff Jail System from 30 different law enforcement agencies across the county. And every one of those people, whether it's a DUI, misdemeanor, or murder, you talk to an ICE agent, and they put a detainer on you if they find that that's meets their criteria. And then when the individual is done with their local charges, we turn them over directly to ICE. And that is cooperation that the federal government, I just heard it today on Fox News this morning, that ICE is really asking for. And if the people in Minnesota, if the people in Minneapolis were doing those things, they wouldn't have this trouble.
No.
Yeah.
So, it is very simple. The president of the United States is enforcing the federal law. The ICE is doing it. They're doing it through ICE. And so local law enforcement, how can you help? Well, I'm doing what I can do with them, and that's pretty clear. Now, also, I'll give you a little scoop. We got a little heads up over the weekend that ICE is asking for our help out on the street, and my response was absolutely, but we're there to keep the peace.
Yeah.
We're not there to apprehend illegal aliens.
Let me jump
The
in there
sheriff
just
is there to keep the peace.
before you got into this last tidbit. I was going to ask you. Thankfully, right now, to the best of my knowledge, the things in Phoenix area have been pretty quiet. Are the heads of the agencies communicating with each other in the event these protests arrive in Phoenix, large numbers? Are the agency heads communicating, and what are the thoughts, if so, if you can comment?
Well, I have personal relationships with most of them. We haven't done it officially, but it's pretty obvious. Okay. There was one city in Maricopa County that told ICE, absolutely not, we're not cooperating with you at all. So that's when ICE called us. And we are the sheriff. We have jurisdiction in every square inch of Maricopa County. So that's why I said we will be there to keep the peace. We've also seen, and there's no need to call Matt, the chief in Phoenix. I've also seen the written documents that Phoenix PD has put out, and basically they're saying the same thing. We'll you go do your thing, we'll do our thing, kind of. And I understand that, because these police chiefs, I have some empathy for them. They're not elected. They're not the sheriff. See, the sheriff can do whatever the hell he wants, and suffer the consequences, right? If you do the wrong thing. And but a police chief can't, because a police chief does something against what the city manager tells them.
Yeah, he's gone.
They're fired. They're fired the next day.
Yeah.
If not that day. So, you can't fire the sheriff. You can not elect them, or you can try to impeach them, but
recall.
You can't fire them. And that's the great thing about being the sheriff. It allows you to do what you think is the right thing to do.
That's one thing that needs to change in the United States Constitution, state constitutions, is police chiefs should not be under a city manager. They should be an elected position. Public safety should not be told what not to do by someone that sits behind a desk.
Well, you know, we've got people out there, like the Attorney General in Arizona
Oh yeah, we saw that.
that made that
What do you think?
the craziest, dumbest comment I've ever heard from an elected official, and she claims to be the Arizona's top law enforcement officer. I don't know how the hell that happened, but anyway, she claims that, and she's making these comments that are going to lead to a potential of somebody getting hurt.
Yeah.
And you know, it's really crazy. So I think she is getting some blowback. I've kept my mouth shut about it. I don't need to jump in and pile on the rabbit. There's enough people out there criticizing her, not happy with what she said. I certainly hope that one of our law enforcement officers, or real law enforcement people out there wearing a badge and a gun, enforcing the law every day, don't suffer because of her naive comment and her Trump derangement syndrome kind of comment. And, you know, my only comment is, and I guess it get off my chest here on your show, you know, if she's going to make comments like that, maybe she needs to move to Minneapolis.
Yeah. Yeah. And the crazy thing is, you know, there's a lot of speculation that's going on the last shooting, ICE involved shooting in Minneapolis. But, you know, a lot of people, they armchair quarterback all this. They sit on the internet. They think they know all this stuff. They watch, they stay at a Holiday Inn, so they think they're smart. And they come up with these decisions, and it's all speculation, and it has nothing to do with what actually happened. You know, so I'm a firm believer in let the investigation go forward.
Well, you know, anybody that's been around, even for a short period of time, knows better than to react emotionally to a video.
Right.
Because the video doesn't tell the whole story. The video tells a little tiny piece, and a lot of times it's misleading. And, you know, there's other angles. Well, you know, look at what the Buffalo Bills, you know, interception, right? Where that was a catch in my book, and he was down, and the guy from Seattle took the football after he was down, and that was the wrong call. And we know it's a wrong call, especially now because it's a different angle, right? And so you can't, you got to wait, like you said, Curly, you got to wait until that investigation is completed, the interviews are done, and you can't rely on this. But, you know, in the way the media is now, with the internet, with Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all those videos get posted up right away, you know, and the media jumps on it because they're really in the entertainment business. They're not really in the news business anymore. They're there to make money, and these things are sensational. And so there you go. And they wanted me on the KTAR show to condemn the ICE agents, and I wouldn't do it. And I also wouldn't back them up either, because I don't know. I don't know what happened. And so I'm not going to fall into that trap. And, you know,
and they do it a lot. The media does it. They do it. And then you get these stupid, not us, of course, but you get these guys that go out with a little microphone and a cell phone and call themselves journalists, and then go around and try to provoke. One of the things that I saw going on in Minneapolis that I thought was finally something positive was I saw the sheriff. I saw a bunch of sheriff's uniforms outside the federal ICE facility, keeping a barricade up, a perimeter for the facility, for those agents coming and going. And see, that's one thing that's been argued. Had those elected officials in Minneapolis in Minnesota decided to allow their law enforcement to assist them, not assist them enforcing laws, because as we know here in Arizona, there's case laws. They said, no, we can't enforce federal immigration law. Well, there's
Mhm.
case law, and we're all familiar with it, having been at the sheriff's office. But you do other things. You enforce Arizona law. You assist them. There are other law enforcement officers. You assist them with scene security, traffic control.
Right.
You enforce
Keeping the
Arizona.
peace, kind of like what I said. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
100%.
And you
Yep.
enforce Arizona laws. And some of that
Well,
stuff that's going on there wouldn't even be happening now.
Also,
don't
some of those
forget, too,
elected officials
I was going
hadn't.
to say the rhetoric from the elected officials there in Minnesota, you know, they have
Did not
blood
help.
on their hands too
Yeah.
by making those comments.
Yep.
You know,
Yeah. It's and there was another thing. Somebody bit off a finger of an ICE agent, a protester, a
Yeah.
mostly peaceful protester bit off
yeah,
a finger.
peaceful my ass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We mentioned earlier the attorney general here in Arizona. Is the election not coming up for attorney general sometime?
Yes, yes. The election will be in November.
And who do we have running? Do we know for attorney general on the
There's,
Republican side, Democrat side?
Yeah, there's two Republicans running, Rodney Glassman and
Awesome.
the Senate President Peterson,
Okay.
Warren Peterson.
And that's this November coming up.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, there's two Republicans that have to run off against each other in the primary, and that's in August. And then I think there's another person, a Democrat, running against the Attorney General. So there'd be a runoff for her race also, if that's correct.
We'll
Yeah,
pray for
what-
good change.
Yeah.
Good.
What's kind of funny, and you'll get a kick out of this. That attorney general calls herself a top cop of Arizona, the top cop.
Yeah.
She's an attorney. She's not a cop. She
I don't
never
think she
wore
was
a
an attorney.
uniform. She never went to a DV. She never went to anything that all of us have done.
Yeah, I find, as a 41-year career law enforcement person, I find it a little distasteful that the Attorney General actually calls himself a top law enforcement officer in the state. Now, they do have a small investigative unit,
Yeah.
but does that make them law enforcement officials? It makes them prosecutors, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't make them cops.
No. The
And
some
one thing about it anyway, and this is what I tell myself at night so I can go to sleep, is that the United States Supreme Court ruled about 20 years ago that the sheriff, the elected sheriff, is the chief law enforcement officer of that county. Nobody overrides the sheriff.
yeah.
So I sing that to myself at night so I can go to sleep when I think about the Attorney General calling herself a top law enforcement officer.
Well,
Yeah,
it appears that her, along with many, many other officials that are up there in governments throughout this country, haven't read the Constitution, know not what the contents of a lot of those beautiful articles hold.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they get bastardized too by a lot of people.
Yeah.
I agree.
It's kind of like they do to the Bible. They pick and choose little things and change it around. And
Yep.
but one of the things that came out of Minneapolis that I wanted to see if you had an opinion on was the governor there said, ICE, they're not real cops. They, and I'm like, really?
Well, I think that governor there is a little bit. I think
Limited.
somebody called him. This is not my word. Just
Oh,
so,
I know where
okay.
you're going with this. Yeah.
This is not my word. I don't use this word. I'm just repeating a word that has been used to describe him. And I
Yeah.
think it starts with an R, right?
Yes, that's it. There were people driving by
Okay.
his house yelling it, and he was having a temper
Yeah,
tantrum.
I know. Well,
And
that goes in with a very ignorant person's comment that they're not law enforcement officials. Yes, they
yeah,
are. They're federal law enforcement officials.
yeah, and there's a supremacy clause. And see,
Yeah.
even the 10th Amendment kind of outlines it. The 10th Amendment says states can do everything that the federal government isn't going to do, like local law enforcement,
Right.
make laws for like speeding, domestic violence, child child crimes, animal crimes. We can do it as a state, and then but they can't do that. So I was going to ask you this: how many, or let me rephrase that, federal agents that come into Arizona that want to enforce Arizona law have to be sworn in by a sheriff, correct?
Correct.
So, like the postal inspectors, for example, and I've worked with many of them over my years, they do mail theft. Mail theft on the federal side, each particular letter, each piece of mail is a separate count.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes their threshold, because of the prosecutors on the federal side, is a little bit high. So they come in and then enforce laws, state laws. But in order to do that, they have to be sworn in by somebody like you. They have to
Right.
be,
Right.
and whether it's U.S. Marshals or DEA or what have you.
Well, the DEA is a really good example too, because they're enforcing the drug laws, right? The federal
Right.
drug laws. But there's also cases where the individual they've arrested, the drug dealer, is going to get more time on state charges.
Yep.
So they would need to be sworn as a law enforcement officer in the state. So yeah, there's some of those exceptions, but there's also people on the far right that believe that the federal agents are unauthorized because they're not mentioned in the Constitution. So there's a fine line between what we're talking here and different interpretations of
Right.
the Constitution. The way I look at this issue is very simple. Is the pattern and practice for the last 100 years has been federal law enforcement agents doing their job in the states, and so there's no way that you could contest that. You need to contest the legality of it, because you need lawyers and judges to agree with you, and you know what, the system is so far down the road. I don't know. It's certainly not something that I would want to pick up on my first term as sheriff, to talk about these constitutional issues that are so deep ingrained in American society now. But I'm very well aware of all the different opinions. I haven't. I'd like to think that I'm practical when it comes to applying the Constitution and not using it when it is expedient, and pushing it aside when it's not. So I always like to think that I'm going to do the right thing, especially when it comes to the Constitution and the oath that I took.
Yeah. And a lot of people, including some elected officials, have forgot that. They forgot the oath that they took,
Mm-hmm.
because all
Yeah.
of us have taken it. I've taken it a few times when I was in two different branches of the military. It's there. It says it.
Right.
You uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States.
Yeah.
Here in Arizona, we have our own state constitution, which pretty much mirrors the Constitution of the federal
Right.
government.
Yeah. And, so when I swear people in, that's one of the first sentences, and swear to uphold the Constitution of the United States and the constitutional laws of the state of Arizona. So, yeah, when you take an oath for a state law enforcement officer, you're really taking an oath to defend both those constitutions. So,
Yeah, and there's one other thing that's different in Arizona. Well, here in Arizona, that's what I know because that's what I did. Rich did it. You did it. When you take that oath here in Arizona to become a deputy, police officer, or trooper, you have the authority to take action anywhere in the state of Arizona.
Yep.
Or be a
correct.
good witness. And I don't know if other states have that.
There's about 7 or 8, I believe, and that's it.
Yeah, and that makes Arizona a little more unique.
Yep.
I know that certain top cops, I keep laughing, but you know, I know that when you talk about that, they have never put on a uniform, like I was saying, never went to a DV, never went to a kid that you pull out of a pool that had drowned or things like that. And they just flap their
Yeah,
jaws. And
yeah.
it's kind of funny because cops across the country, and one last thing, because I know we're running short on time. On the recruiting, I wanted to bring it up. Ann was talking about it, reaching out in different major metropolitan areas across the country to recruit for coming out here because right now with the weather going across the country, we're talking
Yep.
many feet of snow. A cop sitting there with his cup of coffee and his mittens and all bundled up on a traffic accident going, I need to
Well,
do something else. And what would
Yep.
you say to cops in Minneapolis or cops in Chicago or back east that say, man, I need a change? What would you tell them?
I'd say, what do I say in The Price is Right? Come on down, because Arizona is a place, at least it is now. We need to be careful who we vote for. Arizona is a place that respects its law enforcement officers. That we have a county attorney in Maricopa County,
Yep.
and in most of the other counties that back up their law enforcement officers, that don't throw them to the wolves if something doesn't happen exactly according to Hoyle. And so it's a great place to be a law enforcement officer. And the people, most people love you. I can't tell you, I don't wear my uniform a lot anymore, but, people know that I'm the sheriff because I wear a cowboy hat and they pay attention to some idiot with a cowboy hat coming in, right? And so, they'll say, hey, thank you for your service. I got that 3 times yesterday. And I'm like, really? It's not me. It's those deputies and those detention officers that go to work every day that do the job and make it safe. And I always make a point to tell people that. So there's a lot of love and respect here in Arizona for us in the law enforcement business these days.
Oh, yeah. I'd say the same thing. And I know there's a Minneapolis cop somewhere standing in the snow about 4 feet deep going, man, this is BS. I need to get out of here.
I know. I had to wear a sweatshirt this morning, Curly, because it was 55 here.
Well, it's in the 20s up here, and we do have residual snow, but those guys over there are getting hammered right now going, man, I don't like this.
Oh,
And
I know.
I got the Grand Canyon in the backdrop.
Beautiful.
I got, it's beautiful in Arizona. I mean, it's great, and they need to
Come on out.
reconsider.
Yep.
They need to reconsider.
Come on
Maybe
down.
7 more years to work for a great sheriff.
Yeah. Yeah. I kind of sometimes wish I hadn't retired so soon, but I was just really stressed out.
Well, there were a lot of people in that same position, Curly. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And now,
My dad told me, my dad he's a retired lieutenant from NYPD, and he's 95. You know where he is right now? He's at the casino with my wife.
oh,
Okay,
there you go.
so he retired 50 years ago this year,
Wow.
and so he's beat the odds, right? Especially big city cops; they tend not to live very long. But he told me a long time ago. I think one of his secrets to success is when the job stops being fun, get out because it doesn't pay you enough to be miserable, and you just go downhill from there. And so, don't second guess yourself. You did the right thing. You got out when you thought you needed to, and that was the right decision that you made. So,
Yeah.
I know I haven't hit that into that road yet, and now as a sheriff, it's really been a lot of fun because it's great because people always ask me, well, Jerry, aren't you under a lot of stress? I'm not under any stress. The
No,
only stress that I worry about at night is one of our deputies or detention officers getting hurt. Right. Other than that, I don't worry about things because I got a great under sheriff. I got a great chief deputy. I got great deputy chiefs and the captains. And we're one of the things that I want to do this year is really make leadership training something that I know MCSO has not really been good at over the years, and really kind of make that a focus for the next 3 years while I'm the sheriff.
yeah. Wow. I know. I mean, I'm sitting here thinking, had I had just had enough patience to sit around and wait and see what happens. But yeah. And what would you say to the guys on the fence about leaving for the future? Leaving the office to go to a city somewhere where they're probably not going to be happy?
Well, let me tell you something. I I talked to a lot of people that left during the last administration. Some of them are coming back. I talked to this one kid I know, especially a little bit better than most, um, and he kept in touch with me. He left and went to a law enforcement agency, mid-sized one, and I just talked to him 2 weeks ago, and he said, "You know what? I'm sorry I left.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I want to come back." And I said, "What?" I said, "You're making a lot more money there, aren't you?" He goes, "Yeah." You know what? I'm just not happy here. I loved being a deputy sheriff.
Yeah.
And there is a difference between being a deputy sheriff and a city cop.
Yeah.
And, so that was something, again, my dad told me I was very lucky to have him as my mentor. And he said, you got to be happy because if you're not happy, it's going to be work. And if you're happy, it's not work. And I can tell you, 41 years have gone by like it was yesterday.
Yeah.
So I must be happy. I know I am.
Yeah.
And that's what I always tell people too. I talk to every class of recruits before they graduate. And I always tell them, I said, look, we don't pay you enough to be miserable here. Find somebody that loves their job and is happy and wants to come to work every day, and try and surround yourself with those people. Don't surround yourself with the people that are negative. And there's plenty of them in law enforcement, no matter where you are.
Yeah.
And so, that positive energy, let that be contagious,
Yeah.
and it'll make your life a lot easier. So anyway, hey, there's some football games on right now,
Yeah.
and I think we've gone a little bit longer than an hour.
We do appreciate it.
We got
And
a lot.
no, I appreciate it. Let's do it again. And let's
Okay.
not do it when there's some major football games on.
Sorry. So,
Sheriff, thank you very much for your time,
thank you
efforts.
for coming
And
on, Sheriff.
yep,
And and you, if somebody wants to reach out to you from another agency, we were referring them to Ann and recruiting and that kind of thing, but
Great. If they want
just
to talk to
called-
me, that's fine too.
all righty.
Awesome.
Well, thanks
All right.
again, sir.
I love you guys. Thank you.
Love-
Thanks
love you
everybody.
too.
Appreciate
All
you.
right. Say
See
bye.
ya.